So, here we are. Welcome to the Club of Death. Welcome to Harchester United. What's up, guys? I am, as it says on your screen right in front of your very eyes, Chasing Lanely, and welcome to the first episode of Living the Dream, where we get our feet under the table at the Dragon's Lair. We're going to learn a bit more about the club, we're going to meet a few of the players, and we're going to find out where some of the old legends of the club, the legends of the show Dream Team, where they are in the world right now. So let's get through it, shall we? Starting with, of course, and don't forget to like and subscribe because I'll throw that out there now. We've been appointed as the club's new manager. We've been given 1 year on £825 a week, and we're expected to challenge for the title. We know that up front. So we can look straight into the club history. Our chairman, Des Baker, giving us some strict instructions that we have to, that we're predicted to finish first. We're entering the FA Cup at the second qualifying round and the FA Trophy at the third qualifying round, so a lot to do. We have 29,765 seats, and we have a state-of-the-art academy, the Frank Patcham Academy, with state-of-the-art training, youth and recruitment facilities. But the history of the club is as follows. Founded in 1883, Harchester United are an English club playing in the Vanarama National League North, where, if you watch the trailer, you know we bought our way in after some time in non-league. We play the games at Dragon's Lair and possess straight our facilities, which we already knew. We have the nickname the Dragons. We retain a rivalry with Leicester, Wolves, Aston Villa, West Brom and just about every team in the Midlands. Our best spell of success was during the 2000s, although we've never had a 13-year barren spell, having not won a competition since 2007 when we won the Premier League. We have a history which we can be proud of, with the Premier League in 86 and 2007, the FA Cup in 99 and 2006, finished runners-up in the Europa League in 2002, won the Championship in 1899, 1933 and 1958, and finished runners-up on 3 occasions. So a lot of history here, a lot to be proud of. I don't think there's anything that got missed out in that little run here. The 3rd Division North and the Community Shield, nothing we'll worry about. And you'll see a couple of names you recognise from the show already, and the answer is our technical director. Liam Mackay is currently the assistant manager of the club. But let's have a quick look at the best 11 and see who you'll recognise from here. Of course, Jason Porter, known as Tyre Boy, the hero of the last series. He's in the squad as an attacking midfielder / striker, also head of youth development, so we'll keep an eye out for him. So I didn't realise that backgroundy thing moved as you moved the mouse. That's weird. There you go, we've learned a thing. He's got a lot of ability for this level. Gavin Moody is there. He's in it as a midfielder as well. We can expect to see a lot of him over the next year. Bradley Summers was a player from the last season as well. He'd be the youngest player in the squad. Came through the youth team in the last series, but did play quite a bit. And we've got Liam Mackay as well. Of course, you know Liam Mackay, the assistant manager, hard tackling Scot. 42 years old. This is probably his last season. He's come out of retirement to help guide us back up the leagues. Darren Tyson, of course, the usual central defender who has played as a striker before. He is the manager of the under-18s, so we've got him kicking around to help us out. We have Alex O'Mare in goal. He was the championship winning goalkeeper from the 2006-07 season. Good to have him still around as well, so we're going to keep an eye out for him. And all the rest of the guys, they're all real players except McCormick, obviously, with his regen face. They're all real players from the show who I have recreated. Most of them are youth teamers who were released, so that's pretty much giving you an idea of who everyone is that's still with the club that you'll recognise. But let's go straight on through. We'll see what our objectives are. So develop the players using the club's youth system. Goes without saying, it was always about developing youth players at the club. In the show, they were very keen to highlight the youth system. So that's something we'll focus on. Also, right ahead of time, one of the rules of the save is I can only sign players who either played for the club in the show and I've put in the database, or new gen players who don't really exist because you didn't get real players showing up as Harchester players very often. They want us to win the league this year. They want us to reach the first round of the FA Cup and the semi-final of the FA Trophy, and then our contract expires, so hopefully we will survive. Let's get in and let's have a quick look at where some of the other legends of the show are, and then I'll show you around the youth team, because a lot of the guys in the first team that you will recognise, I've shown you, I think I've shown you all of the ones you will recognise, except one, and we'll carry on from there. So it'd be impossible to start any discussion of who from the show, which legends ended up where, without of course mentioning Luis Amor Rodriguez, who is currently the manager of Derby in this universe. He's just taken over this season, and he might well be a guy who makes his way back to the Premier League before we do. He's a good coach, he's a good manager. We're going to see what he can do in this save. Of course, his mate Ray Wyatt is currently managing Wigan, because it felt like the kind of place he'd end up, so he's gone to manage Wigan, and again he might make it to the top of the English football pyramid before we make it there. But Ray has the potential to go back to being a Premier League manager, so we'll keep an eye out for him. Of course, former striker Scott Lucas was always mentioned on the show as being a Millwall fan, so it made all the sense in the world to me that he would go and be an under-18s coach at Millwall. That's where we'll find him, and who knows, maybe we'll bring him back. He's got some good stats, so we might see him come home. Those who remember the first season of the show will remember striker Dean Hocknell, whose brother Sean was killed in a plane crash. But he is currently the head of youth development at Sunderland. It felt like the role he would go into, being a local lad. I felt like he'd go home, and I felt like he'd want to try and bring through some more lads a bit like him. Another of the big stars of the show was Monday Bandili, the striker from Nigeria. With 97 caps, 71 goals, he's currently coaching Nigeria, so he might make a move back to Europe at some stage. We know he's around, we know where we can find him if we need him. And while we're talking big names, of course, Didier Baptiste, the French World Cup winning centre-half, is a coach at Barcelona after retiring, and a decent one at that, with some to learn. He might well even become our defensive coach somewhere down the line if we can persuade him to leave Barca. Some of you will probably remember Michael Dillon from the third series of the show, second and third series of the show. The captain of the team was forced to retire eventually with arthritis after a spell at Charlton. He's currently coaching at Oxford City and wants to be a manager, so maybe he'll step up and manage somewhere and be someone we come across sooner rather than later. You might also remember the Spanish striker Miguel Lopez, who has found his way to FC Andorra. He's a good friend of some of the people involved in that club, so he's ended up being there as both a coach and a striker. He's still playing, still going, and might well find his way, into a decent coaching position somewhere down the line. Another big name who's still playing is Ryan Naismith, playing as a winger. He won himself a bunch of caps for England after leaving the Dragons and going to Villarreal. He's currently playing at Oldham, and he's also an under-23s coach. Still good enough to play at the level we're playing at. Almost certainly going to be someone we try and get in before they retire, but Ryan Naismith is still in the game. In terms of ex-managers of the club, Ian Coates is out and about in the game world, still looking for a job, still unemployed, but he's probably at that level where you'd expect him to appear at the level we're at now, so don't be surprised if we end up managing it as Ian Coates. Likewise, Patrick Doyle is still around, and he was again a very, very good coach around the game, was portrayed in the show as being a very well-known, very competent manager. Maybe will appear at League One Championship level before we get there. He's got the ability for it. We could well see it happen. Another ex-manager of the club was Alan Rothman, who is currently managing Chesterfield. Will probably be the first of the ex-Dragons managers we come up against. He's only about a season-ish away from us, so we could well find ourselves meeting Alan Rothman on the way back up. And the final guy I'm going to show you from outside the club, not currently with the club, that some will remember, is the man that is responsible for burning down the stadium and getting the club expelled from the league in the first place. Danny Sullivan, the club's ex-centre-half, is currently coaching under-18s at West Ham. Now, there are literally everyone that survived the show that appeared on screen was named, and I could work out what they did. It does appear in this database somewhere. I will release the database at some stage once we get going. If you want to have a fiddle around, see who you can find, you're more than welcome to. What I'll do now is I'll show you the few that are still at the club on the staff, and when I say show, I'm not going to show you all their profiles because we'll be here all day. But I'll just show you who's still knocking about the club that we might have to talk about at some stage down the line. And of course the first place to look for that is on the board, where we have Des Baker, who was the head of the Digs and at one stage the club mascot, as the chairman. Linda Block is back as managing director. Jeff Stein. Luke Davenport, the club's first striker, or sort of big striker that went blind. Claudia Irving, who was the daughter of Sam Irving, the owner. Dean Boyle, a former owner. Marilyn Harwood, a former managing director, and Stephanie Jacobs, a former, chairman's wife actually. They've all got themselves positions on the board, so the board is packed with faces we know. Andy Answer is technical director, Liam Mackay, as I've mentioned, assistant manager, Jason Porter, head of youth, Viv Wright is a goalkeeping coach, Alex O'Meara also a goalkeeping coach, Frank Patcham and Dean Sturridge on the coaching staff. We've also got in here Kevin Nelson, Terry Glover and Ricky Charlton, players from the 80s. As scouts. Bruce, the Chinese international, I forgot to mention he was in the squad. Some of you will remember Bruce having come in. He was sort of brought in as a This guy will load eventually. He told you he'd load eventually. He was brought in as a kind of cash grab. The sponsors of the club were Chinese and they wanted to have a Chinese player, so Bruce was the guy they sent over. It's not his real name, but no one could pronounce his real name. Is Qiang Shao, but he's come back to the club to learn his trade as a scout and to help the club in midfield. We've got Pavel Kovac there on the under-23s manager. Tommy Moore was the goalkeeper from the second season, I think. Chris Banks was the goalkeeper from the first season. Billy O'Neill was the guy I was going to show you was still knocking around though. Billy O'Neill has come back to the club after having his little spell at West Ham. Finished his career, came out of retirement, felt like he hadn't finished his job in Harchester and came back to settle some unfinished business. So we've got him up front for us this year as well as helping out with some of the youth coaching. And Ashley King, the physio, returns to the club. She'll be knocking around and hopefully staying away from the players this time. That's the rundown of the first team squad. Now I'll show you what potential we have in the youth team squad, because as you can see, if I show you the first team, this entire first team squad is somewhat aged. Gary Bradshaw is the youngest player we have in there, and he's 30. We're going to need some young blood. So let's have a quick look at the under-18s and we'll see what potential we've got knocking around. Big under-18 squad. I've created some of these players. The game has created some of these players. None of them are massively OP. The ones I created myself, I randomly generated their potential ability. So they could be... I set a random number between 70 and 200 for their potential ability, and whatever was randomly generated by the random number generator, I stuck in the box and kind of left it to it. And then I sort of made sure none of them were too good for this league to start off with, so they may not get to that potential. Order them by what the game thinks their potential is, but all things there's quite a lot of potential in here. Let's have a quick look at some of them and see who might come through, because we're going to need all the pace we can get. And Reece Emery's going to be the first guy who pops up. He's wanted by everybody. So he is a striker. He's not someone I've created, but he's got a little bit of pace. We may have to mentor him a little bit, but he's got the ability to turn into a real player for us, so we'll definitely keep an eye on him. Steve Hardy is next listed, again, someone I've not created, but some good physicals and good mentals. See what he's rated as turning into potential-wise. Doesn't say, but he's currently at the level below us. We've got Lewis Jeffries, the Welsh central midfielder. I've not created him either, and he's got some big potential that's worth bearing in mind. So that gives you an idea that the three highest rated players potential-wise at the club are not players I've created. Abdurrahman Yalcin, who I'm guessing is also Turkish. Of course he is. He looks like he could be okay. He's a right winger without any pace though, so that's going to be difficult. We'll see what we can do with him, and hopefully something. He is wanted by a bunch of clubs as well. Patrick Thompson-Brown, a left winger with a lot of pace to burn for this level. And again, we're not seeing anyone I've created, but shows you just how randomly this has generated players. But he's got pace and he's a winger, which means I'll probably find a use for him. Dave King, left back, plays also at centre half just as well. Doesn't have a lot of pace, which is something I like in a defender, so we have to see if we can make that happen. I'm not going to throw in a player just because they've got potential. They need to have to bring something else to the team. Kevin Nedelic is a centre half. I'm going to guess he's Hungarian as well. Canadian, there we go. Learned a thing. Kevin Nedelic, he is apparently our highest potential goalkeeper, so we'll keep an eye on him coming through as well. Now I know I created Kyle Brady. Kyle Brady is a left winger from New Zealand. Again, could come through. He's not quite the finished article yet, but he's got some pace, so he might be someone I bring in to help add pace to the squad. Diego Silva, a Brazilian right back as well in the squad. Not a lot of pace, but potential. Potential is there. Taj Gether, Australian centre half, who actually does have some pace, does have some determination, does have some heading ability. We may make good use of him. Henry Stewart, the Scottish central midfielder, already a lot of pace, only 14. Expect him to be around for a while for sure. Otherwise, looking down here, Kai Powell was someone I know I created. Has pace but not necessarily ability. In fact, we can go to ability and you'll see the guys who are likely to play this season right away. So Robert McCormick, the left back we saw highlighted originally, apparently the best left back at the club. I'd expect to see him play. I'd expect Josep Torrent, the Spanish striker, to play. Again, generated by the game, not by me. so we'll see how good he turns out to be. Steve Hardy probably on the verge. We already looked at him. There are players here. Vinny Kayembe, midfielder, looks okay. We may well see him start to come through. Jaroslav Mlenek, a winger slash striker, doesn't really have his pace through yet, but we'll get his pace through. That's the brief rundown of the squad. We have options. We have some stuff coming through the youth team, because I knew there's no way, no matter how good a manager I am, you can see the ability we have here. Anything essentially under 3 stars is not going to get you out of this level, and most of that is sort of first team ready players who are good enough to be in the first team, and solidly more than half, I would say more than half, are not ready for this level. And these guys from Chris Cahill up, all good enough to be at this level, but you'll also, there's only 8 players. You also have from Charlie James down to wherever. I mean, these are the guys I'd realistically consider using. There are 9 players there who don't have it. So we're going to have to build something. I'm not sure what I'm doing tactically yet. I need to have a good look through. We're going to play a few friendlies, and in the next episode what we'll do is we'll come back with this FA Cup first qualifying or second qualifying round game. We'll start there with episode 2. By then I'll have played a few friendlies. I'll have an idea of who is good for what, and then we can come back and we can start playing our way through the series properly. So in the meantime, guys, I've been Chasing Lanely. Socials are down there. Don't forget to hit them up. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Magic thing appearing there. Told you. And until next time, guys, I've been Chasing Lanely. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all very soon. Have a good one.